Welcome to the IELCE Civics Network meeting for December 2021. My name is Lori Howard. I'm IELCE Civics Program Specialist at CASAS, and I'm glad you're here with me today. As you come in, please type your name and agency in the chat box, and if you haven't already, please register at caadultedtraining.org. That would be very helpful. So glad you're here with us today. I know people are coming in. But as they do that, I'm going to just start with our agenda, and then we'll move on to our very full agenda today. So we're going to start out with some information on civic participation at IELCE, IELCE Civics in general. I want to remind you about the IELCE Civics Exchange again. Portia LaFerla is going to tell you a bit of information about citizenship preparation. And then we have two wonderful presentations today. The first one is on a media literacy COVID-19 lesson that Carla Gallegillos at LAUSD has prepared for her agency, and she's willing to share with all of us. And then we're going to talk with Penny Pearson and David Espinosa, both from OTAN, about accessibility for Word documents and PDFs. We've been having Penny join us every month to talk about accessibility, because that's what we're focusing on this year. And today it's about Word documents and PDFs, so I'm excited about that. So let's just move on with the little bit of information we have in general. And again, if you're coming in, please type your name and agency in the chat, and then please go to register after the meeting at caadultedtraining.org. So just a little bit of information about civic participation at IELCE, and some of it bleeds over into Cit Prep. We want to tell you about the IELCE Civics Conference this year. We're not going to have IELCE Civics conferences as you have known them in person. Last year we did a webinar system with some Q&A sessions. This year, we've decided to replace that with what we're calling the IELCE Civics support channels. There's going to be an IELCE Civics support channel and then a second citizenship support channel. And they will be pre-recorded presentations that you can access on our YouTube channel. You can see a picture of it or what it's going to look like here. And those of you who visited our channel this year, you'll have some information or you'll recognize this is what I meant to say. And some of the presentations will be from previous years if they are still relevant, but others will be changing and new this year. They'll be accessible, or many of them will be accessible mid-January, so January 22. And we're going to do it by strands. So there's going to be IELCE Civics program information. That's where you'll see the requirements video, understanding COAPs, et cetera, and then a similar channel and information for the citizenship program information. And then IET, things that relate to IET will be there. TOPS Pro topics will be in both citizenship and Civics channel. Instructional resources the same. We're going to try something new, and although I have been sending you the recordings for the IELCE Civics meetings, now we're going to be posting the recent ones on the channel so that I will send them to you. Well, I'll have to decide whether I'll continue to send them to you or send you here to get them, but we can talk about that. We'll have a link to the IELCE Civics Exchange and how to utilize the exchange and submit materials, et cetera, and even a publisher's corner. So we're excited about that, and we hope that you're excited about it too. And you'll be hearing more information about this at your WIOA network meetings in January, in December and January. And I will send you a notice also when it's live and when you can access it and the link, et cetera. Any questions about that?
Lori, I assume there's no cost?
No cost.
Great,
free,
thank you.
Free to you and anyone else who'd like to do that. We're providing a service here. Anything else? Okay, great. And I just want to mention too also that very soon, some of the webinars that you may have seen at the CASA Summer Institute will be also on the EL Civics page at casas.org. Some of these will also be on the YouTube channel, but I want to post them on the EL Civics page as well because you're used to going there. The latest version of the civic participation and IELCE requirements, the latest version of understanding implementing co-ops, the training we did about the Civics Exchange, and then 2 examples and maybe more of this models for preparing learners for the workplace. Every year and at every conference, we're using this title to showcase our IELCE practitioners, those who are doing workforce training in combination with English language learning. And so we're going to try to be posting those online so they can be accessible. So we'll post these 2, and then we have some others in the archives that we'll post in the same place. So if you want to see IELCE in action, you can see it there. And then this last one, I'm going to post more for people out of state, but it's basically the requirements, EL Civics Basics requirements video without the requirements. It's sort of a general training I did for people in other states. So if you have someone in another state you want to share with, that would be a good one for them, but not really for those of you who work in California in the program. Any questions about that? Okay, and I just want to give you some information about the EdTech Integration Strategy Toolkit. This is a toolkit developed by World Education, which is a fabulous organization, and they wanted to pull together all the EdTech tools that are around in one place. So they're hoping that you will not only go on and find materials, but also share materials that you know about there. And they've offered this link here to a webinar that will tell you about the toolkit. And then on that webinar, it's my understanding that they give you a QR code that allows you to link to the app. And you'll hear more about it there. So try that out. I haven't tried it out yet, but I got this information. I wanted to share it with you. If you have any comment about it, let me know, and I will pass that along to everyone. And that is pretty much the information I have for you for EL Civics in general. So I'd like to, oh no, that's not true. It is true in general. And the EL Civics Exchange I want to talk about before we move on to citizenship. And Raul asked to share the slides. And yes, after every meeting, I share the recording and the slides. I think I may have forgotten to share the slides last time. I'm sorry, but I will share the slides and the recording after this meeting to those of you who are in the EL Civics network. You know if you are, because I would have sent you an email on Monday reminding you of this meeting. If you didn't get that reminder, then email me. Please don't put it in the chat, but email me at lbhoward@casas.org. Ask to be put on the mailing list, and I'll add you to that, and then I will send you both the recording and the slides for this meeting. So I just want to remind you about the EL Civics Exchange. We're working really hard to get materials up there. Remember that it's a joint project of CASAS and OTAN, and you can access instructional materials and also submit those if you are a California agency. We just have one thing there now, but we're hoping to have a lot of materials in the future. And we're going to tell you about that in a minute, but I want to share with you that materials created with WIOA 2 funds are the property of the California Department of Education. So remember that if you had concerns about whether you could share your materials or not, if you've developed them with WIOA funds, they are the property of California and hence in the public domain and can be submitted to the EL Civics Exchange. And also know that your materials need to be Creative Commons licensed, which is an easy thing to do, but also accessible. And that's why we have Penny Pearson here today to talk to us about making Word documents accessible. And this last bullet, just to remind you that funding to purchase software or to pay staff to make their materials accessible is allowable in your WIOA funds. So if you would like to share your materials, and we would love you to do that, you can use WIOA funds to do that. So just want to remind you of that. And to let you know, we're working now with 40.4, which is a citizenship co-op from Miracosta. We're working on 33.7, which is an employment co-op. from Mount Sac, and we're working on some materials for 70.2 from Mount Diablo. I saw Marin's name here. Thank you, those of you who are sharing your materials and trying to get them up on the website. It is a little more cumbersome than we imagined when we started this, but we know that it will be a great thing to have accessible materials up for everyone to use. That will help our teachers and our students. So this is what we're looking forward to, hopefully by the end of the month, and hopefully more in the wings. So again, let me remind you before we go to citizenship, please put your name and agency in the chat, and please register at caadultedtraining.org after the meeting if you haven't already. Now I'm going to turn it over to Portia LaFerla. Portia, I've given you co-hosts, but I will move the slides for you.
Thank you, Lori. The first piece that I wanted to highlight are the CAPE Immigrant Integration Indicators, and these have been added to the CAPE reports, and most of them are earned through IELCE Civics co-ops, successful completion of IELCE Civics co-ops. And in the past, through CAPE, we were not getting ESL outcomes for a lot of what we were doing with our students. And one of the things that hasn't been recognized is the achievement of citizenship and steps toward attaining citizenship. So the CASAS has the Government and History for Citizenship test and the Citizenship Interview test, which will now be counted as outcomes for CAPE under this I3 category. And next slide, Lori. And there'll be a report that shows that citizenship falls under the immigrant integration goal area of credentials and residency. And if you go to the IELCE Civics website, Lori has posted a form, and it correlates the IELCE Civics objectives with the I3 goal areas. And there are a whole list of these goal areas, but citizenship in particular is going to fall under credentials and residency. Next one, Lori. In order to offer the citizenship interview test to your students, you have to have at least one person who has been certified to give that test. It's a one-on-one oral interview, and the students really like it. It's a lot of personal attention, and it shows their readiness to take the citizenship exam with the USCIS, the oral exam. In order to do that, you can order it on the CASAS website, and I've provided a link to that on this page. And the certification course closes on April 30th of each year. Next slide, Lori. Every year, citizenship examiners need to recertify, and recertification begins in January and ends on April 30th. It's an online self-paced course. And if you need to recertify, you will be receiving an email from CASAS at the beginning of January. For remote testing, the citizenship interview test has a fillable PDF form that citizenship examiners can order. But if you are testing in person, you should be using CIT test booklets 973 and 974. There is no charge, but the PDF is only for remote testing and the booklet is for in-person testing. And the government and history test is a listening test that is based on the 100 questions, the USCIS 100 questions. And it is a listening test. The examinees, the students, hear a question and then they see the responses and choose the correct response. And it can be given through e-testing, but if you are, or paper and pencil, if you are remote testing, you can order a flash drive for testing up to 10 students at a time. And on that flash drive, it has the PowerPoint presentation for both forms. So the students are looking at the answers. And as the slides advance automatically, the questions are read. So you just start the slideshow and the slideshow does everything else. The students can report their answers as you determine. And it also contains test administration directions and a practice question for getting the students oriented to the test. With the flash drive, it is you order one flash drive for every test administrator. They should not be shared, copied, stored. Just order one per test administrator.
Okay, great.
Any
Thank
questions
you.
about that?
Yeah, any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself.
If you're going to do the e-testing for the government history test, now where would it show? I mean, where would it, if you go onto the CASAS, would it be on the list of tests already in
It is one of the listed tests.
Oh, it is. Okay, so they can go, okay. Yeah, all right, that's good.
And
Thank you.
just to clarify, Portia, this is true for WIOA agencies as well as CAPE agencies, right? That they can report the SIT, that it'll show up in the I3 is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, for WIOA, the SIT has always shown up. SIT and government history have always shown up, and they're under citizenship and they both earn payment points.
Good.
For CAPE, the requirements, they don't have all of the WIOA requirements. However, passing those two exams results in CAPE outcomes.
Oh, okay.
Great.
All
Thank
right,
you so
thank
much.
you.
Anything else? So we have a couple questions in the chat. Can payment points be earned by doing 973 and 974?
I'm not good at numbers.
I think that's
No.
I think that's the
Is
SIT
that
test. That's a SIT test.
the SIT test?
Mhm.
Yes, they can be, you gain payment points if the student has a pre-post test and is enrolled in a citizenship class marked as citizenship as a focus area.
Citizenship preparation. So you need to be a WIOA funded agency.
Correct.
Okay, and how are people getting student answers? It says for the remote government and history listening test, how are people getting student answers? Have you heard of any other different methods?
One of the ways for remote testing, they're having the students just answer on a piece of paper, take a photograph and send it to the examiner. You could use a Google form, but then you have the issue of having more than one window open. So that doesn't work that well, but it's up to you how you collect those answers. A photograph is fine.
And Cindy says, do you need a special training for this exam? I'm not sure which exam she's referring to, so maybe you can talk about both.
So you do need special training for the SIT, and you need to be an e-test proctor to give any of the e-tests.
And what level of ESL is appropriate for the listening test? I assume she means the G and H.
From beginning high and above. Beginning high, it's a little bit of a stretch for beginning high, but they can do it. It really is based on their mastery of the information that's in the 100 questions. So intermediate and advanced students do well. And I would say probably about, my experience, 60 to 70% of beginning high students could pass that test with proper preparation.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so there's some information just people can read from Steve and some other people. But so I just want to mention the upcoming IELTS Civics meetings before we leave this part of the session. January 26th is our next meeting. And I've tentatively planned these other dates for our next meetings. If you have any difficulties with these dates, if there are weeks of vacation or whatever that I don't know about, let me know. I will be posting these soon as if I don't hear from anyone that these are not good dates. Otherwise, these will be the dates for our spring meetings. And again, please type your name and agency into the chat if you haven't already. And then I hope you will register for this meeting afterwards at caadultedtraining.org. So now I'd like to move to we already talked about questions. So I'm going to just move to our first presentation on media literacy. And we have Carla from LAUSD, who's the EL Civics teacher advisor. And Carla, I can stop share and I can make you the co-host so that you can share your slides. Or as soon as I find you, you were here. Carla, have we lost you?
No, thank you, Lori. I'll wait until you find me. It's
Okay,
I'm the one with the longest and most complicated last name. so-
right, but you should be in alphabetical order and I don't see it, so that's.
It's okay. Well, you are pulling me up. I will attempt to share. I am not able to share, but it's quite all right because I wanted to, oh, let's see. Maybe now I can share. Yeah, now I can share. Thank you,
Okay,
Lori,
you're
very
welcome.
much. Number one, I just wanted to thank Lori and Portia for allowing me to share some of the wealth. I do believe that as a teacher of 25 years, I am always borrowing and just in awe by the resources that are out there. So thank you, Lori, for allowing me to do that. And you know that I've been wanting to upload things in the exchange, but it's the accessibility that has set me behind. But we're working, you and I are working on that together. So what I will do with today is I want to do three things. Number one, I would like to go ahead and share the portions of the module on media literacy and what we have done at LAUSD. I will give you an overview, and I will also, we will take a deeper dive into the actual lessons. And number three, I would love to hear questions that you have or suggestions that you might have. But before I even begin, I wanted to just, again, I'm an ESL teacher at heart. Please indulge me. I want to get a feel for the group today. I know the holidays are coming up, so I wanted to do something called a waterfall activity, and I'm sure many of you know what that is. And I learned it again from another colleague. And what this is I want you to think, it's a word association. So when you think of the word holiday, right? And this will take no more than just a few seconds, folks. So please, like I said, indulge me here. When you think of the word holiday, what is the first, don't put anything in the chat yet. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? I want you to take 2 seconds when I say holiday, think about that word, type it on the chat, but don't hit enter until I say go. So it's gonna be a cascade of answers. Again, cascades of answers. So holiday, what do you think of? Go ahead and put what you think of in the chat. Let's see how this group is feeling today. When I say the word